Analysis on the story now. Defence Web editor Guy Martin joins us this afternoon. Guy, it's great to have you on. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. And I must say, just given the attack on one of our oryxes earlier this month, this incident doesn't come as a surprise, as shocking as it is.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. No, unfortunately, this latest attack is not a surprise, and I think it's something that we can expect to see more of going forward. If you look at the increasingly sophisticated level of weaponry that is being provided to the rebels in the DRC, I think things are only going to get worse. You might recall that earlier this week, the United Nations had one of their UAVs fired on by a surface-to-air missile, which is quite an unusual occurrence in the DRC. We've never witnessed rebels having access to surface-to-air missiles before. It's believed that Rwanda has supplied these surface-to-air missiles to the M23 rebels. And last year, guided mortars were also found to be used by rebels in the DRC. So we're seeing a greatly sophisticated level of weaponry making its way to the DRC. And at the same time, we're seeing a reduction in SANDF capabilities. When the Air Force had better budget resources at its disposal, it was standard procedure for Oryx transport helicopters to be escorted by Rooivalk attack helicopters. But the Rooivalks haven't flown in the DRC for about a year, and that's mainly due to funding and maintenance issues with Denel. So there is much less air cover for not just our troops, but for other contributing countries, not just to the SADC mission, but to the UN's MINUSCO mission as well.
Yeah, and it's not just about cover, is it, Guy? It's also about medevac cases. Are we able to get people out and do evacuations when they are needed, given, you know, how well-resourced the M23s are, versus how we're seemingly going into this war zone?
Well, if you look at the 2nd of February attack, in which one of our Oryx was shot at, and it managed to fly with 43 bullet holes through the fuselage, that aircraft was carrying out a medical evacuation mission. Now, 43 bullet holes, it's an extremely dangerous situation. It's almost miraculous that the aircraft wasn't shot down and only 2 crew members were injured. So without Rooivalks providing, or other gunships providing cover, it'll be extremely difficult to safely evacuate troops from combat zones. Yeah.
Out of interest, how many Oryx do we have as a country? And perhaps a follow-up question to that should be, how many are actually operational?
So we have about 39 officially on the books, but about half a dozen are actually flying at any one point in time. In the DRC, there are 5 Oryx, but only about 2 are serviceable. There's also 1 or 2 in South Africa, and on occasion, Oryx will be deployed to the SADC mission in Mozambique. But serviceability rates as a whole are extremely low, and this is true across the entire Air Force. Only a handful of the 11 Rooivalks are serviceable. Only several of the half a dozen strong C-130 fleet is serviceable. So the Air Force, I think, is sort of the poster child of the impact of underfunding of the SANDF. We're seeing very limited serviceability, and this comes at a time when the defense budget continues to be cut, but yet the SANDF is asked to do more and more and more. So we've got 2,900 troops that are being sent to the SAMI DRC mission in the DRC, plus the 1,000-odd troops that are there with the MINUSCO mission. We've got troops in Mozambique. We've got nearly 3,000 troops on the borders. There's troops being asked to take part in anti-illegal mining operations with the police, and we've got troops protecting ESCOM infrastructure. So it's it's just becoming unsustainable. The SANDF is being stretched far too thinly, and it can't go on like this.
Yeah. You know, Guy, I was listening to the radio this morning, and there was a caller who said soldiers are well aware of the kind of risk that comes with the work that they have to do going into these types of war zones. But, I mean, given what you've just described, given just how under-resourced the SANDF is, there's one thing to contend with that kind of risk. But would you go as far as to say that we're actually sending our soldiers on a suicide mission, particularly on this DRC issue?
I wouldn't quite call it a suicide mission, but we are sending our troops in without the requisite support. There was a case in Mozambique relatively recently where one of our soldiers was killed, and a lack of air support contributed to that. With the latest attack on the Oryx, that also, if there was a Rooivalk there, that I'm sure that aircraft would not have been hit 43 times. So we are sending our troops in without the support they need, and the result is going to be body bags, unfortunately.
You know, you talked about, and we've explained the situation insofar as the SADC peacekeeping mission is concerned, and the fact that our deployment is part of that SADC peacekeeping mission. Guy, what are other countries contributing in the DRC? So
we are providing the majority of the roughly 5,000 troops. Malawi and Tanzania are contributing the rest, and they are going to be working together with the Congolese military to form the SAMI DRC mission. Unfortunately, Tanzania and Malawi have very small militaries. They've got much less equipment than we have. They don't have any attack helicopters whatsoever. So they won't be able to provide any air support, essentially. So that basically leaves South Africa as the one with the best equipment. But unfortunately, we don't have the budget to send that equipment to the DRC or to maintain it. And another issue is the budget. So with the United Nations peacekeeping mission, they would refund us quite generously if our equipment was serviceable. But now this is an SADC mission. There are even fewer funds available to support this mission.
Yeah, absolutely. Guy Martin, let me thank you for your time this morning. Defence Web Editor weighing in on what is our breaking news story on this Thursday.